Welcome to Odds.com's presentation and breakdowns of UFC Fight Night, UFC Apex, and we brought our best MMA analysts together to find the angles, to get the cash, and tonight we are doing it live and interactive. We have 11 fights on the card, 6 preliminary fights, and then 5 on the main card. I'm looking forward to break this down. Let me introduce you to our esteemed guests. First off, star of the Die Hard MMA podcast, Clint in the house. Clint, how are you doing, my man?
Doing good, Jimmy. Happy to be back. Love hanging out with you boys live. Ready to go.
Live and in person. There he is, right there. You can reach out and grab him. You can also ask questions anytime throughout this show. Then we have Boston Nick in the house, a.k.a. Mr. Fat Fist. Boston Nick, how you doing, my man?
Hooking and jabbing, sticking and moving, as my pops would say.
Like it.
Another dollar.
I like it. I like it. And Al Mack making his live debut with us here on Odds.com. My guy Al Mack coming to us live from the 6. How you doing, Al?
What's up? I'm just excited for some more UFC. We got two good events in the next 2 weeks. Let's crush it.
Let's crush it. And Al has some excellent articles on odds.com right now as we speak. The chat is coming together. There's Mr. Gokester now. It's Dennis Garcia, Kelly Ragosta. We got Kelly in the house. Wife of the Big Ragu. Man, that's sweet to see Kelly rolling with us. Let's get right to it. Clint, would you do me the esteemed honor of setting the stage for us? Where are we on Saturday night?
Jimmy, we are finally headed back to the land of milk and honey. We are going home. This fight is taking place in Las Vegas, where, as you know, you can hunt wild packs of white women drinking lattes. It might be a little thinner these days, but that's it. We're going home. We're right in the heart of the action. I'm so excited. And we get out of Jacksonville, away from those damn judges. We might get a couple of decent decisions on this card.
Maybe.
I love it. We're going home. Life is coming back. That's what's happening. We're back in Las Vegas. Connor McLaughlin in the house. Maxwell Smart, Gregory Wilson, and Connor McLaughlin saying, hometown, baby. We are back in Las Vegas. And I love it. Okay, we're going to start with the preliminary card, and we are going to break them down. We're going to spend a lot more time really focusing on the main event, obviously, the big Woodley fight. But then we're going to take more time with the main card. So let's start with the preliminary bouts right now. We're going to start with a featherweight bout. 5'9" American Chris El Guapo Gutierrez, 14-3-0. Opens up Bet365 as a minus 138 favorite, a legitimate favorite. It is now a pick'em. Money's been coming in on 5'7" American Vince Vendetta Morales, 9-4-0. Opens as a plus 110 dog. Now a minus 110 pick'em. Let's get Clint to get us rolling here on Fight Night Apex. What do you think of this first featherweight bout?
Jimmy, this is going to be a great way to start the night off. Both these guys are still relatively unproven, relatively untested. One is 1-2 in the UFC. The other one is 2-1 in the UFC. And it's really one of those who's going to get the leg up on their career type of situations. Chris Gutierrez, good footwork, constantly circling. He fights really well from the outside, but he's got kind of a low volume output type of situation going on. He really just wants to outpoint you for 15 minutes. And Vince on the other side of this thing has some good heavy hands, relies on head movement, a sharp jab, a strong right cross. If somebody's going to finish this fight, it's going to be Vince. But can he catch Gutierrez is going to be the question. It's going to be a battle of footwork, and I really love the matchup. I am this close. I've got this gut feeling that Vince is going to show up in this fight. He had a bad showing in his last fight. He's the one coming off a loss. He's the 1-2 fighter here. He's the one that has to prove something to win and potentially keep his job with the UFC. And I think he shows up. I just think the power he's got in his hands, when he sharpens that boxing up, I think he's going to be a problem for the division. So that's where I'm going to lean here. But I haven't pulled the trigger on a bet. It's a pick 'em for a reason. It really could go either way. But I'm going to say Morales gets it done.
So you agree with this market move towards Morales?
I do.
There we have it. We are getting rolling with El Guapo Gutierrez versus Vendetta Morales. Boston Nick, what do you think of this featherweight bout that starts it all off for us?
If I was to honestly break it down any better, I don't think I could have. I mean, right now at this point, the level of competition that Morales has fought in, yes, they're 2 L's, but to Benito Lopez. He did beat Ayman Zahabi, which is Firas Zahabi's younger brother. And then he lost to our boy Yadong Song, who had a good showing last week. Got the W. Could have went either way. And then the other hand, you got Gutierrez, who was beating Freitas, and then what was it? Ryan McDonald, who I don't understand I don't know why he's with the company. I do believe that Morales gets this done. He's better in the pocket. He's a better boxer. Like Clint mentioned, Gutierrez does like to strike at distance. So if Morales can get in there in the pocket and use his boxing well, I think it's his fight to take. So I do like Morales here.
Morales being backed early. Are you going to pull the trigger? Have you pulled the trigger?
What kind of odds can I get him right now, Jimmy?
It's a pick 'em.
I think there's going to be money coming in on Gutierrez, by the way. I know there's been money coming in on Morales, but I think that might flip-flop. I might put a bet on Morales just in case now. What's it, minus 115 right now? Pick 'em, right?
Minus 110 each way.
Maybe I might try to take a prop with Morales by decision. Let me see what that we can get right now while you go with Al Mac. Let me take a look.
Take a look at Morales by decision. Al Mac, I'm excited about having you join forces with the guys because I know you focus on trends and angles that we don't talk about too much here on the show. So I'm looking forward to hear your insight. You have a look here in this first fight of the prelims?
Yeah, exactly. Like you guys are saying, when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of mixed martial arts, you guys probably, you're way ahead of me in technique and stuff like that. But I look at this from a trends point of view with the division and fighter by fighter. And yeah, I got to go with the underdog in a coin flip fight. And I think that I agree with Nick. I think Gutierrez is going to take some money, and we'll probably see Morales at maybe plus 100 by close. And the featherweight division, the underdog in the coin flip fight has gone 20-13 for plus 8.2 units over the past 18 months. So you're on the right side if you're betting. You're betting the dog in these coin flip fights, which is basically like between minus 150 and higher as a favorite. It's better to be on the side of plus money, and I agree with you guys. I like Morales here quite a bit.
Now, being a pick'em, does that kind of sway your, he's not exactly a dog right now, but if he jumps to a dog, is that you gonna take Morales once he gets to plus odds?
Yeah, and this is the thing is I'm listening to you guys. You guys know that you like Morales here, so it's dog or pass for me, but I'm kind of putting a line through Gutierrez because I expect him to get the money. So I got to go with Morales in what I think is going to be a coin flip fight.
There you have it. The first fight, looking at bout. The first fight and bite on the preliminary card. El Guapo Gutierrez going up against
Jimmy, if I can interject real quick before we move on to the other fight. One point that I want to bring up, something we've been seeing since we've seen these empty arena fights, is that the judges are favoring power strikes. So when you've got a full arena, people cheering, you can't hear shit. But in these empty arena situations, when somebody hits hard here and you hear that flap, you hear that baseball bat on meat sound, the judges are responding to it. I think something we need to bear in mind is that power strikers, whether it be kicks, punches, whatever, those are the people the judges are going to lean towards. And that's one more reason why I have a lean towards Morales. Anytime you're on that fence during these situations, try to hit the person who's got a little more pop on their punches.
And by the way, you can get plus 191 Morales by decision, almost double your money. I think I like that play. I might be jumping in that. Check my Twitter out, Mr. Fat Fist. I'll be putting plays up right after the weigh-ins.
Gregory Wilson here, Clint, saying that they're using a 25-foot ring, not the normal 30.
Yeah.
You have any insights on that?
We are in the apex, Jimmy. So this is where the Ultimate Fighter takes place. This is where Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series takes place. So it's a slightly smaller cage. So what that's going to do, that's going to nullify a lot of fighters who use movement like Gutierrez. I'm talking myself into a bet here, Jimmy. The people who are going to be running are not going to have the space that they're used to. The grapplers are going to have more of an opportunity to close that distance and get their hands on their opponents. There's a lot more of that kind of stuff that's going to be going on here. The more this piles up, the more I like Vince Morales.
All right, let's move on to the next fight. On the preliminary card, bantamweight bout, 5'9" American Luis, the Last Samurai Smolka, 16-6-0. Open at plus 225, still there. Going up against the favorite, 5'7" American Casey Kenney, 13-2-1, sitting at minus 275. Let's go with you to get this rolling, Boston. Nick, Smolka, Kenney.
All right, Kenny's the better fighter here. We all know that. Smolka's been in and out of the UFC twice, okay? And he has had his stint at 125 pounds in the flyweight division. Now, he's had 3 fights up at 135, won 2 of them, I believe. He's 2-1 at 135, but I believe Casey's just a different animal. In the scrambles and grappling, he's better. The only place Smolka really has a chance here in my decision if he snaps some sort of weird type of submission on Kenney, if Kenney somehow manages to give him his neck or something like that. I believe this is Kenney fight to lose. Obviously, the odds say that at minus 270-ish right now, Jimmy? Yeah. I don't see how Smolka wins this fight. This is his 4th fight up at 135. He's looked a little bit better at 135, but who's he fought? Really nobody, okay? That being said, this is pretty easy pick for me. I have to look into some props. I ain't going to parlay Kenney at minus 270. It's just a little bit too high. If he drops like minus 200-ish, I would, but 270 is too high. So I got to look for a prop bet that inside the distance I might take. While you guys are talking this out, I'm going to take a look at it.
All right, there we have it. He's going to find a way to lower the juice. Al Mac, Smolka, Kenney. You got to look here?
You know what? I've looked into it, but I just can't find a side to get on. I agree. I think Kenney wins this fight, but it's hard to the reason that I don't want to take inside the distance is because I'm looking at this trend. 62.5% of the fights over the last 18 months in the bantamweight division, 50, 28, and 2 to the over. It's these fights tend to go over. I think Kenney wins, and I think the over hits. But you're looking at minus 270 on Kenney, and I see like minus 260 on the over, or minus 265 on the over. So it's almost unbettable to me. I just.
What about Kenney by decision at minus 118?
It's so hard because this guy is so much better. Kenney is so much better than Smolka. So it makes me nervous of having to last 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Plus 300 inside the distance. So,
Clint, the boys are having trouble finding value. Can you?
Jimmy, I am going to be boring and agree with both of these boys on this fight card. So basically, Kenny's better everywhere. I am a huge fan of Luis Smolka. He's got great movement. Both these guys are scramble masters. If this thing hits the floor, we are in for a treat. The way these guys go for offensive submissions, reverse positions, and sweep, it's going to be phenomenal. But because of both of them being so dang good on the mat, I don't expect them to spend too much time there. Usually when you see fighters who match up or are both high level in a specific area, they almost tend to avoid it for some reason. So we might end up seeing a striking match play out. Luis Smolka is really focused on adding some strength and muscle. It's something that he's really struggled with in the UFC. He's just not been strong enough to hang with his opponents. So that's something that I like to see. And when you're talking about betting an underdog, Luis Smolka is the kind of guy you want. He will fight for your money, tooth and nail. He never quits. But I can't play him here. I'm a huge fan of him, and I thought about betting him when the line first came out. He was the first fighter on the card I looked at because you know me, I'm always looking for my big swings on these underdogs, and I couldn't get there. In fact, I was so convinced that I've parlayed Casey Kenney. I'm on the other side of the fence now. Casey Kenney has crisp, accurate striking, straight to the punch, whereas Luis Smolka throws these big looping hooks and things like that. If they're striking for a long, extended period of time, Casey is going to land before Smolka does. So if Smolka lands a big bomb and clips him, okay, that can always happen, but I think Casey's just going to beat him to the punch. He also uses a whole lot of kicks, fast switch kicks. He works the body. He blitzes in. He gets out. He stays safe. He throws spinning attacks, elbows. He's just the better striker all the way around. And then when it hits the mat, like I said, I can't see either of these guys submitting the other. They're both so good with their submission defense. They both scramble so well, but I don't want to count the fact out that maybe Casey can catch Smolka in something. I didn't want to play him just to win by decision because he could land a knockout. He could catch a submission. So I've got him parlayed up with somebody else later in the card.
I got a little sprinkle, Jimmy. Plus 600 Kenney by Casey Kenney by knockout or TKO. That's not bad odds for knockout. You know what I mean? Clint, TKO. Plus 600.
The only problem is that, like I said, Smolka doesn't quit, man. He's called the last samurai for a reason. This guy is willing to die in there.
He looks like a samurai.
Down. He's never been knocked out either. And Casey Kenney, while he does have striking, he's got some pop on his punches. He's not a knockout artist. And if Smolka hasn't been knocked out by anybody, I just don't see Casey being the guy to do it.
At 125, he hasn't been knocked out, but this is his fourth fight at 135, and it's definitely his best fight yet at 135, or toughest fight yet at 135.
I agree, but Casey's only got 2 knockouts to his name in the first place. This is going to be a submission or a decision. My guess is going to be decision.
Okay, so inside the distance, you can get plus 340 if you want to take Kenney, or minus 118 by decision, or just jump on the dog.
And Brandon Williams saying, I like Kenney by decision prop, and I don't mind him in a parlay. So that's where we stand right now. Let's move on to the next spot. Flyweight bout. 5'7" American Tim Elliott, 16-10-1, opening at minus 175 at Bet365, still there. Versus 5'9" American Brandon Raw Dog Rovyal, 10-4-0, plus 150. Let's let Al Mac get a start on this one. Flyweight bout. Raw Dog up against Tim Elliott. You see an angle here?
Yeah, what's interesting to me is coming into this, I was looking, there's only been 25 flyweight bouts in the UFC over the past 18 months, and the over has hit in 60% of those fights, but it hasn't been profitable if you bet every single fight to the over. But what's interesting is this is the first flyweight fight that we will see in this pandemic scenario, and I'm extremely skeptical that these guys are both going to be fully healthy, making such a small weight in these kind of scenarios. So I think that I actually like the under in this fight. I think that somebody gets a finish here. I think probably Elliot might be able to get the finish. I just don't think that these guys, I think it's honestly a bad idea to be fighting at flyweight in these scenarios. So I think that I like the under. I think there's going to be a finish in this fight.
All right, we got an under from our guy, Al Mack. Clint, what do you think of Al's look here?
I kind of like that angle, actually. So Brandon Royval's the new kid on the block. He's stepping in to fight a veteran in the UFC. Tim Elliott's been around for quite some time. He's turned into kind of journeyman. He hit his peak coming off the Ultimate Fighter Challenge, DJ, and he's been up and down ever since. In fact, he's been choked out in a couple of fights recently. So even though one of the main things I always talk about with Tim Elliott is his awesome submission defense, he's been caught twice recently. It almost seems like he's a bit over the hill, Jimmy. It seems like he may be a bit out to pasture. And I know some people, some sharp bettors who are actually on the dog Brandon Royval here in this situation. This is another fight that I expect to be a complete scramble fest. Both of these guys are submission artists. I believe Brandon Royval has 6 of his 10 wins coming by way of submission. And like I said, Tim Elliott has been submitted a couple of times recently. I expect it to be grapple heavy, and I do think one of them catches something. Elliott's on a 0-2 run right now. He kind of needs a win to bounce back and save his job. And if the UFC is welcoming in newcomers and they're walking all over you, you're likely to get cut. So I expect Elliott to show up. That under might be a sharp look. I don't have a particular play on this one because my gut says that Elliott, as the veteran, pulls one over on this debuting kid, but wouldn't be surprised to see a finish either way.
Nick, what are you thinking here? Elliott up against Raw Dog Royval.
Honestly, Tim Elliott, he's fought the who's who in the flyweight division. You know, I mean, not have fared too well against them, but at the same time, he has fought the who's who. Brandon's coming in here on short notice, and my answer to can Royval get it done against Elliott? And I don't think so. I think probably not. That being said, also the only way of him winning is snatching up some sort of submission, and as we know, Elliott, his jiu-jitsu is off the chain as well. So this to go under, I could actually see this might be going over. If both these guys nullify the jiu-jitsu and Elliott can't get it done on the feet, what's going to end up happening? You know what I mean? So right now, you can get the over. And if you do like it inside the distance or it not to go the distance, Al Mac, you can get Tim Elliott at plus 200.
Yeah, I see that.
You know what I mean? And that being said, I just it's a tough bet to make. I'm on Elliot's side here. Minus 170. It might be parlayable, but like Clint was saying, Elliot, he might be on his way out.
I wouldn't trust Elliot in a parlay. He's
Exactly.
the guy. He is the apple punch shitter on the card right now. I don't want to lay that kind of chalk on him. I definitely don't want him tied up with another fighter.
Exactly. So, at that being said, you might only here is an over/under if it's playable. Otherwise, it's a pass for me. I got to see this kid Brandon fight.
Let's move on to a light heavyweight bout. 6'4" American Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill, 7-0-0, nary a loss on the record. Opened up as a big favorite, minus 175, and at Bet365 opened up minus 175. Now down to minus 125. Money coming in on 6'2" Brazilian Klidson White Bear Abreu, 15-4-0. Open as a plus 150 dog. Now just a plus hundo dog. Clint, do you recognize and understand why this market move is going towards the White Bear?
So, Jimmy, I do understand. I do see why the market is moving that direction. And you know me, I love me some dog money. But I'm also not afraid to stand up in front of the market and be strong in my own opinion. And I have taken the opportunity to snag the favorite Jamal Hill now that he has dropped all the way down to minus 125. I think the bookmakers had it right. I believe he should be the favorite here. I think he's going to win this fight, but I didn't want to pay anywhere near minus 170 for him. Now I've only got to pay minus 125, and I love it. I'm going to go ahead and play Jamal here in this spot. He's got a massive height and reach advantage here, and all you're going to hear from everybody is Klidson Abreu's ground game. The dude's sick on the ground for 205, and that's absolutely true. We talked about how the small cage is going to affect that. We talked about how grapplers may have an advantage live in this type of a situation, but Jamal Hill has a sick get-up game. He is no stranger to being taken down and standing up, and he set a record for Darko Stosic's strikes taken to the face in his last fight. He's got a phenomenally high work output. He's got very crisp strikes, and the fact that he's going to have like a 5-inch reach advantage here, I don't think that he's going to get caught, or at least if he does get caught, I think he'll be able to get back up to his feet and he'll wear somebody like Klidson Abreu down. Jamal Hill has got these beautiful step-in knees. He is constantly working the body against these big boys. He's just going to drain his opponent. If he's got some time to work in there, he is going to gas out Klidson Abreu. Abreu wants to wade in, attack your legs, chop the tree down, and he does have some sharp hands. If he connects on the chin, he could clip Hill. That's definitely possible. But really, his main path to victory is the ground. And I think Jamal Hill is going to be able to keep this fight standing, or if he does get taken down, get back to his feet. And even though people talk about how Klidson Abreu is just so much further than Hill is on the mat, Abreu doesn't even land one takedown per fight so far in the UFC. So I don't know that he's going to come out in this fight and suddenly look like Khabib and be able to chain grapple and get Jamal Hill down and be the one doing the wearing out. I think Abreu gets tired. Hill turns the tables on him and wins a convincing decision, maybe even gets a late finish.
I love it. Clint sees a big favorite turn in to a small favorite and pulls the trigger. Boston Nick, do you agree?
I was almost ready to jump on Abreu, but then I watched a little bit more tape, and I've seen this kid. This guy's fallen in love with the striking as opposed to taking it to the mat. With the Sam Alvey fight, he attempted either 2 or 3 takedowns. He got one of them, and Sam Alvey was able to get right back up. And as we know, Hill is the bigger man here. He's also future up-and-comer. I believe he's going to be able to do the same, just like Clint said. Now, if Abreu is able to take this to the mat. Now, it's a smaller cage like we were talking about, right, guys? So if he can take this to the mat, he can get it to the cage, inside leg trip, get him down, maybe. But now with this market move, Clint made a great point. It's the time to jump on Hill because before he was a little bit too much of a favorite. I couldn't do it. I was about to pull the trigger and jump on Abreu at those odds. But then I watched more tape, like I said, and said, this guy doesn't go for his takedowns. He doesn't go for his bread and butter. So point blank, end of story. Hill, I'm taking here. And what can I get, Jimmy?
Right now, Hill's down to a minus 125, a very slight favorite.
Okay, I'd also like to take fight goes the distance at minus 155.
Is that something that you'd parlay?
No, I think it's good enough odds just to take straight. What do you think, Clint?
You're saying the fight does go the distance?
Fight goes the distance, yes.
I'm not touching that one, man. I honestly see a finish materializing one way or the other. Abreu's game here is getting it to the mat and finding a submission. We know he's got a big advantage once it gets down there. If he's forced to stay standing, like I said, I think he just gets worn out by Hill, and then I see a late finish materializing for Hill. So I wouldn't be playing this thing goes to the distance, and I definitely wouldn't be parlaying it if I did.
Mac looks very serious.
Real quick, but both guys, they have 4 UFC fights. And for their 4 of their UFC fights, have went to decision in all 4 fights.
Abreu has faced fellow grapplers, people who are going to spend time on the mat with him or be able to defend the takedown. Not really a striker like Hill. And Hill faced Darko Stosic, I think, in his last fight. And even though Stosic is very, very limited, he's very, very durable. And honestly, I'm surprised he didn't go out. The shots that Hill landed on him were unreal. And like I said, Hill does have a tendency to leave his chin up just a little bit. I don't know, man. Like I said, I'm not touching it, so I'm not saying you got a bad play or anything like that. I just would be leaning under rather than over personally.
Get in here, Al Mac. What do you think of their looks here?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jamal Hill's the bigger man, and I think that the smaller cage is probably going to benefit him. I think that if Abreu attempts to stand and bang, that it's gonna go badly for him. And like Nick said, a lot of these guys tend to have decisions, but I think that you're getting value on the under because of that. You're looking at the under 2.5 rounds at plus 160. I think that's a bit of a misprice. I think that's where the value is at the under 2.5 rounds at plus 160. And I'm not even saying that my handicapping says that I think that's what's going to happen. I just think that's where the value is.
There we go. Jamal screams Hill. Down to a minus 125 favorite as we speak. Let's move on to the 5th fight of the preliminary card welterweight bout. We have 6'1" American Daniel D-Rod Rodriguez, 11-1-0. Opens up as a giant favorite, still there, minus 334 versus 5'10" gifted Gabriel Green, 9-2-0, plus 250 dog here. Boston Nick, what do you think about D-Rod against gifted Gabriel Green?
I mean, Gabriel Green is 2-1 in Bellator, right? Listen, Rodriguez is one of these Contender Series stories. He didn't get the contract right away. They wanted to see him grow a little bit in his next fight. And what did he do? He knocked the dude out in I believe it was the 1st or 2nd round. They brought him right back in, and he got a W. 6-fight winning streak for Gabriel Green, but who's he fought? He's also fought in 4 different organizations in his last 4 fights. So he kind of flip-flops everywhere, which means I don't think there's too many people that are that much high on him. Why does he keep flip-flopping from organizations? I don't know. I haven't seen enough tape on Gabriel Green. They just announced that fight, earlier today or yesterday, Clint, right? With the Gabriel Green.
Sorry about that. Don't know what the hell happened there. I'm back.
I didn't even know you left. But yeah, with Green, what is he? He got the fight yesterday or today, right?
Yeah, Green is a short notice replacement, which I believe Daniel Rodriguez was actually coming in relatively short notice himself. So it's an interesting spot.
Yeah. This is one I don't see any type of angle at. Minus 360 right now with Rodriguez, and then you get plus 300 on Gabriel Green. I mean, I guess you could take a shot on Gabriel Green at plus 300, but it's not something I could look at for a bet or entice anybody into putting money on it.
Al Mac, is there an angle you see here in this welterweight bout?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably take a shot at just maybe like a 1% play on the dog here, because I just think that, like you guys said, it's a short notice fight. They're both coming in short notice. I also like the over. I think that these guys, if they're coming in with a lack of a training camp, not a full training camp, that they might not have their full stamina, so they might both lose their striking power as the fight goes on. So we might see an easy decision. I saw the over. I'm not exactly sure. The odds are down where I get them, but I saw that
fight to go to decision right now is plus 225. Fight to go to decision. So
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that big time.
There we go. Some looks here. Clint, what do you think about this gifted Gabriel Green D-Rod Rodriguez fight?
This is a complete dice roll, Jimmy. I think that if you're going to play this thing, it's dog or pass. I mean, I can't lay that kind of chalk on some guy's first UFC fight. When you debut, you've got butterflies in your stomach. You don't know how you're going to act under the bright lights. I mean, there's no crowd to influence these guys, so maybe it's not so bad. But you're in front of Dana the first time, and you're supposed to be fighting this established fighter, that kind of thing. And then they throw you a curveball, and you get some new kid coming off the streets, and he's not bad. I don't know how he's a plus 300 dog here. I'm not touching it. I'm just going to sit back with some popcorn and Fireball and watch this one.
Popcorn and Fireball.
Popcorn and Fireball.
All right, let's go to the main event of the prelims here. Women's flyweight bout. 5-foot American Caitlin Blonde fighter Chookagian, 13-3-0. Opens up as a plus 125 dog at Bet365. Is now a plus 110 dog. So money coming in on Chookagian. We have the Sports Keg in the house. In the chat, Sports Keg early in this video wrote out Chookagian. So obviously he has interest in the blonde fighter going up against 5'8", Kyrgyzstan-born Antonina La Pantera Shevchenko. Opened up as a minus 150 favorite, now as a minus 138 favorite. Whew. Al Mac, you see an angle here.
Yeah, man. Like I talked to Clint and Nick about this, and I think I'm on the opposite side of you guys, but I absolutely love Caitlin Chookagian in this fight, and I don't know why she's the underdog. She's the number 2 ranked fighter in this division. She's the number 11 pound for pound women's fighter in the UFC, and it's just one of these things that goes back to my trends. The flyweight division underdog, 18-28 for 4.5 units over the last 18 months. But what's even crazier, 6-3 since the start of 2020 for plus 10.42 units. So we're talking about Roxanne Modafferi beating Macy Barber. We're talking about Lauren Murphy at plus 320, and those kind of fights. And I just think that there's a little bit of a mispricing going on in this division. It's not really, what separates these fighters isn't really totally understood. And I think that there is a huge amount of value on Chookagian, and this is a bet that I'm going to bet almost 10%. On Chookagian. I am extremely confident that she's going to win this fight.
Who her sister is, who she's been training with, right?
How long have we been capping together, Al? I've never heard you say that in my life. 10%? Is that how confident you are in Chookagian?
I put down 5%, so I might put down another 5, depending on what happens.
Jesus. Holy shit. And right when you say that, I need winners.
Right.
Holy shit. Okay, let's Nick, what do you think of that?
I mean, you could take that's ballsy right there. This is a coin flip, in my opinion. I mean, literally a coin flip. And that being said, you can actually pick up either a quarter unit or a half unit by betting both girls by decision. I don't see how this fight gets finished. I really do not in 3 rounds. And that being said, both girls at decision are at plus 125 and then plus 157, if I'm correct. I think that with the training that I've heard through the grapevine, that Valentina has been heavily training with her sister and in the grappling department. So with the smaller cage, if she's able to implement any of that with Chookagian, who Chookagian does not like to resort to, she's a stand-up fighter. But I do believe the first couple minutes of this fight, you're going to hear sounds from the movie The Karate Kid. Kia, kia, kia. It's all you're going to hear for the first couple minutes. It's going to be an empty stands. You're going to be able to hear that real loud and clear. And this really comes down to who lands more strikes. Who has more output. I do think Shevchenko is the better all-around striker. Okay, hands, definitely with the feet. Remember, she's coming from a kickboxing background. That being said, I'm on Shevchenko at minus 130.
Oh.
Wow. This is exciting. Clint, break this.
So, Jimmy, this is one that Al Mac and I spoke about in private earlier in the week, and I told him that I wasn't going to bet it, and I would wish him luck because of how excited he was to bet on Caitlin Chookagian. And unfortunately...
He's never said that as long as we've capped it.
Unfortunately, I'm going to end up on the opposite side. I like Antonina Shevchenko the more I look at this thing. So, Jimmy, Caitlin Chookagian is essentially a fraud. This girl should not be the number 2 ranked fighter here. She should not be this highly touted. And I think the bookmakers had it right, and they're selling everybody wolf tickets by giving you the ranked fighter at dog money. Let me go over just a little bit of what we see from Caitlin Chookagian. She averages 4.11 significant strikes per minute over the course of her career. She absorbs 4.49, meaning she has been outstruck by the majority of her opponents over the course of her UFC career. In her last 4 fights, she is 2-2. Now, yes, one of those was the champion, and my boy Jay was saying, if you take out Valentina Shevchenko, how is she not the favorite? I'll tell you how, Jay. She lost to JoJo Calderwood. I had the dog in that fight. JoJo outstruck her 112 significant strikes to 82, and somehow Chookagian walked away with a victory. I don't want to hear shit about how Caitlin Chookagian beat my girl JoJo. I was robbed that night. So she should be 1-3 in her last 4, Jimmy. She gets outstruck by everybody, and all she does is make noise. She fools the judges by kee-awing, which if you don't know what that is when they go, ha, ha, every time they throw a punch. She fools them into thinking that she's landing when she's actually not. Remember we talked about the smaller cage and how the more power strikers are going to be the ones who are going to get the judges' attention? Well, Antonina Shevchenko so far has landed 4.90 significant strikes per minute, which means she is more active than Caitlin Chookagian is on the feet, and she's more defensively sound. She has only absorbed 1.92 significant strikes per minute. She will be outstriking Caitlin Chookagian. She will be hitting her harder and actually hitting her, and I think we're going to get us a decision here. Not to mention what my boy Nick said. She's been working the grappling with her sister. The only hole in Shevchenko's game is the ground game. Roxanne Modafferi pulled the greatest upset, one of the biggest upsets we've seen when she beat Antonina Shevchenko. Your boy called that one as well. And that was because Shevchenko cannot defend the takedown. Caitlin Chookagian has gone for 0 takedowns in her UFC career. She does not have a ground game that we're aware of. And even if she does have one in her back pocket, Shevchenko has been doing nothing but work on hers with her sister. I am on Antonina Shevchenko.
Cheers, man.
Hiya! Hiya! It's what I use when I fight and when I make love. Those are okay. Let's keep going. We got Border Rage in the house. We have a great group of MMA cappers in the chat and on screen. That's your preliminary card right there. Preliminary card, El Guapo Gutierrez versus Vendetta Morales. Last Samurai Smolka up against Casey Kenney. Raw Dog Rovyal versus Tim Elliott. Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill against Clinton White Bear Abreu. D-Rod Rodriguez versus Gifted Gabriel Green. And Chookagian versus Shevchenko. So we know Al's best bet of this preliminary card is on Chookagian. Nick, what is your best bet on this preliminary card?
Best bet on this prelim card. I'm going to go with it's a tough one because this prelim card's kind of tough here. Let's see here. Was it plus 191? Morales by decision. I'm gonna roll with.
A big plus line there. Plus 191. Morales by decision is our man Boston Nick's best bet on the preliminary card. Here we go, Clint. Best bet, preliminary card.
So as much as I just talked shit about Antonina Shevchenko, my best bet, I think, is going to be Casey Kenney. I just think that he gets it done. Like I said, I've got him parlayed with someone else further on down the card. And even though the line may be a little bit wide, I just think he walks away with the victory here.
Oh, he whoops him. I just I don't have him in a parlay yet and can't take him straight. I'm not sure I can take him by decision or by a knockout. So, yeah, I hear you on that.
All right, there you have it. The preliminary
I think I know what Al Mac's best bet is.
Yeah, we know. 10%. I can't wait to see what happens now, man. I can't wait to see what happens now, and I can't wait to have drinks with him and say 10%. Good. Over and over again. There you have it. The preliminary card brought to you by odds.com. Right then and there. Get paid on Saturday night. Now we move on to the main card. Apex Fight Night back in Vegas. We start with women's strawweight bout. 5'4" American Mackenzie Dern, 7-1-0. Opens up as a minus 333 favorite, and money keeps pouring in on. At Bet365, she's now minus 400. Going up against 5'1" American Hannah Shockwave Cifers, who opens up at plus 250, is now at plus 300. We've got our best MMA analysts here to break down this main event card. We've got Boston Nick in the house. We got Al Mack, whose articles are starring on the odds.com website right now, breaking down the best angles to get you paid. And we've got Clint, star of the Die Hard MMA podcast. Yeah. Card time. Clint, let's start with you. Mackenzie Dern versus Hannah Cifers.
Jimmy, I mentioned earlier that I've got a parlay on this card, and we are closing it right here, my man. I do not normally like taking gigantic favorites. I chase dogs. That's just the way that I play it. But every once in a while, the stars align, and I can see the goal of the UFC. What they've done is they have essentially served up Hannah Shockwave Cifers on a platter to my girl Mackenzie Dern. They are trying to rekindle that hype that she had before she took her suspension, and they're giving her a fighter who belongs a weight class below that doesn't exist in the UFC, atomweight, and they're giving her a girl who cannot defend the takedown. Mackenzie Dern is a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player, and she is going to wreck Cifers on the mat. We've seen that Cifers can't keep the fight standing against lesser opponents, so even though Mackenzie Dern struggles with the wrestling aspect of her grappling game, that won't be a problem here. She's going to be able to physically manhandle Cifers and just drag her to the mat if she can just get her hands on her. It's a small cage. They will eventually hit that wall, and I don't think Cifers is going to be able to stick and move her way to victory here. That's her only path. She's not big enough to land a power shot to knock someone like Dern out. Dern has surprisingly heavy hands, even though she's very limited when it comes to her striking. And it's just a one-sided beatdown, man. I don't know if it's going to happen in the first round. I don't know if it's going to happen in the second round. But eventually, Dern will be on top of Cifers. And honestly, I might be even sprinkling the Dern by KO line because she may go for a ground-and-pound finish here. And that's where you'll find value because everyone and their mother is going to be on Dern by submission. She is closing out my parlay with Casey Kenney, and I'm risking 2.86 units to win 2 on that parlay.
Ooh, 2.86 units. Let me just pop it in right here and see if I was to bet it right now. Casey Kenney and Mackenzie Dern minus 143. And a couple locks. Minus 143 is not so bad. Boston Nick, what do you think about this unabashed confidence from our man Clint?
Honestly, Clint, I can't agree with you more. This is a get-back fight for Mackenzie Dern. She's coming off that baby. After that, losing to, I believe, my side chick, Jessica Alba. Yes, we have something going. Got a little thing going on. I'm not gonna tell anybody about that though. But that
you just told us all about that, Nick.
Yeah, no, she's fine. That was for Karate Hottie. I'm talking about my side chick. But that being said, there's no way that Cifers wins this fight. At plus 350, there's no value whatsoever on Cifers. I don't care what anybody says. I would actually take that plus 850 that you were just talking about at by KO. That's what you're going to get, almost plus 1,000 by KO. Love your parlay piece. You might be able to take her by submission as well or inside the distance. Right now, Dern inside the distance is minus 160, which is actually doable because you don't know if he is going to submit her, right, Clint? So I think I'm right.
I think that ground and pound window is open. We actually see that more than people give it credit for as you get these submission fighters that get dominant position. They flatten their opponents out. And if they somehow happen to defend their neck well enough, they can't get that choke. They just start slamming elbows and the ref pulls them off.
I can see her getting top control, full mount, and just start raining down punches. Yep. And then the ref just stops it, whether she's hurt or not. You know what I mean? She's not defending herself. So I think I might sprinkle a little bit on that plus 850.
Mac, Dern, Cifers. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. The favorite in women's strawweight division has won 72.2% of the strawweight bouts since last year, 26-9-1 for 4.56 units. So implied probability suggests that a favorite in this division minus 260 or better is a decent bet, but Dern is currently minus 400. So I wouldn't personally bet that minus 400, but yeah, there's absolutely no way that Cifers is going to win this. Although I will say this, what you guys just talked about of the ground and pound finish with Cifers, that's basically exactly what happened when Angela Hill fought her. She just got on top of her and beat her for 9 minutes, and that's how the fight ended. But something that I noticed here, the over in this division hits at 77.8%, 28-8 for plus 2.17 units profit, which isn't that much, but usually that's at 2.5 rounds. And in this fight, we're getting 1.5 rounds, and I bet it at minus 160, and now it's at minus 135. Yeah. And I totally agree with you guys that Cifers is super outclassed, but she was super outclassed against Hill, and she lasted 9 minutes. So we just need 7.5 minutes here. And I think there's a lot of value, to be honest. I think there's even more value now than there was when I bet it.
I don't mind that bet whatsoever at minus 135 over 1.5 rounds. It was 2.5. Forget about it. Over 1.5. That's not bad at all. I like that look.
I'm honestly scared of it at 1.5. That's a sharp line. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be right on the edge there.
That's your first bet on the main card, women's strawweight bout. Mackenzie Dern with Hannah Shockwave Cifers, and a very confident parlay from our man, star of the Die Hard MMA podcast, on Dern with Kenney from the prelims. Kenney, a big favorite up against the last Samurai Smolka. Kenney Dern, if you want it right now at Bet365, that parlay will pay you minus 143. There you have it. Women's strawweight bout. Next up, lightweight bout. 6'2" American Roosevelt, the Predator Roberts, 9-1-0. Opens up as a big favorite, minus 300. Now a bigger favorite at minus 334, going up against 6' American Brock Chatatuska Weaver. 15-4-0. Opens up at plus 240. Now it's plus 250. They're begging you. They're begging you to put a little money on Chatatuska right now. Let's start with you, Boston. Nick, what do you think about Roberts Weaver?
I don't like the line here at all. We need to remember who Roberts has beaten in the UFC, honestly. And yes, Roberts is probably the better, fighter everywhere here. I mean, except maybe the grittiness, that bite down to get down type thing. But let's face it. On paper, Roberts should get the W here, but at plus 300, I can get him at plus 300 right now. Brock Weaver, I definitely think it's worth a shot. I mean, we saw Roberts get dominated basically by Vince Pichel, which is a journeyman. Okay, he's a journeyman. That's what he is. So I'm not sold on Roberts yet. I have not placed my bet on the dog yet either. I want to see the weigh-ins. That's something big for me to see what these guys look like up against each other, how the weight cut went and all that stuff. But I do believe that there is value on Brock Weaver, okay? If you guys are parlaying Roosevelt Roberts, you're going to probably be biting down the whole fight until he gets the W or until he doesn't. That being said, I can't tell anybody to parlay Roberts. You have to look for a prop bet if you're going to bet him. I do like Brock Weaver as a dog right now, but I want to see the weigh-ins.
All right, a possible dog appearance. When we haven't got many of them or any of them really, any confident dogs here, there's been some dog opportunities.
And Jimmy,
you
can get Brock Weaver by KO, I believe, at let's see here, plus 1,000. Okay,
10-1, I would say. Yeah,
plus 1,000. I mean, that's come on now.
Al Mack, angles, edges. What do you think here with Weaver Roberts?
Yeah, I got a soft spot for Brock Weaver because the last time I bet on him, it was a card where I won 2 fights in the same night by an illegal knee. It was Weaver and Sanchez, both on the same card, won their fights by an illegal knee. So I like Brock Weaver. I agree 100%. This is one of those things where I just think the the separation is not indicative of what the odds say, and I think that Weaver is better than what the bookmakers are saying. And another thing here is that I also think that there's the separation between these two fighters. There's some value on the under. I think that there's going to be this is another one of those things. If you look at Brock Weaver, he is a big guy. He looks like he could be a welterweight fighter. He looks like he cuts a lot of weight, and Roosevelt is pretty lean, but I just still think that these guys are cutting a lot of weight to make 150 during a freaking global pandemic. I think we're going to see a stoppage here. I like the under 2.5 rounds at plus 165 as well.
Whew. Plus line's coming up. Under 2.5 at plus 165. You could have Weaver by KO plus 1,000. Clint, I know you salivate over these giant plus lines. Do any of these appeal to you?
Yeah, Jimmy, I'm right there in line with my boys in this one. I don't know why. So, okay, I've got to tread lightly here. My best friend is Native American, so I can't talk bad about Brock Weaver, but he's got a very, very basic skill set. He's not phenomenal anywhere. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and that's how he wins. This guy is tough-nosed. He's gritty. He's dirty. He's hard to take down. He's got great takedown defense and a solid get-up game, and he's just physically strong. So if he gets in there and he starts to hit you when you start to gas out, he can put people down that way. But I'm not sure he's an elite caliber fighter yet. I don't know if he actually belongs in the UFC. There is something, when I put my parlay together, there were only a couple of big favorites I was interested in. And when I dug into the research on Roosevelt Roberts, I had to throw him out. I've got a weird, sneaky sensation that Brock Weaver shows up this weekend. I don't know what it is. Roosevelt Roberts he's going to have a very, very small reach advantage, but he's going to be the slightly smaller man. He does have crisper striking, crisper boxing. He's got an underrated submission game. So if he does get this fight to the mat, he does have the opportunity to win by getting the back, getting a choke, something like that. But Brock is so good at defending the takedown, I don't know if he'll get there. I did watch an interview with Roosevelt Roberts where he swore that he was going to finish Brock Weaver. The other thing we've got to keep in mind, Brock Weaver's last fight was ended in an illegal knee KO. He got put down by his opponent. He was scrambling to get back to his feet, but he was still on the mat, and his opponent just lit him up with an illegal knee that was so bad it knocked him unconscious. Essentially, the ref had to call the fight. So when something like that happens, your body takes a while to recover. I don't know if he's going to be 100% coming back in this fight, Jimmy, and if he's at all compromised, Roosevelt Roberts may be able to get it done. I really like Mac's look on the under 2.5. I think that's sharp here. I think with Roberts potentially having the extra option of finishing because Brock Weaver might be a little roughed up from that illegal knee. And then also just my weird spider sense tingling that maybe Brock shows up. Somehow I think this one gets finished in one way or the other. I like that plus line.
Yeah, plus 155 all day. Under 2.5. Too.
There you have it. Some plus money coming up right there. Lots of people in the chat talking about this spot. Call me Touch.
What's going on, Touch? What's up, brother?
Was getting dominated. JTMMA saying, I think Robert's going to be coming in hot. And Viral Video, a little Dern, Nunez, O'Malley, plus 153 parlay. All right, let's keep rolling. Up next. Main card time. We have a catch weight event. 5'10" American Billy Quarantillo, 13-2-0, opens at minus 170, and money comes in on the old Alpha Ginger, which I didn't know there was such a thing. Quarantillo goes down to minus 150. Spike, the Alpha Ginger Carlyle, 9-1-0. Opens at plus 140, now plus 125. This guy got bullied all through high school and now has become a very dangerous MMA fighter. Let's go with our man with angles and edges and statistic analysis that he has on odds.com right now. Check out odds.com for some of Al Mac's MMA articles. Al, what do you think of this spot?
Yeah, like I already mentioned about the two featherweight fights in this on this card are what you would call coin flip fights, meaning the favorite is about -150 or better. And again, I'll say it again, 20 and 13 for plus 8.25 units over the last 18 months. So I got to go with Carlyle. And it's just one of these things where I also think I like the over here. I think it's another one of those things where we're getting plus money, and on the over 2.5 rounds, the over hits at quite often in this division. 45 and 27, only for 1.39 units, but now we're getting plus money. So I mean, 62% probability. You're giving me plus money. And I like the over, and I like Carlyle here. Now, I'm not crazy confident about it, but if I'm betting these fights, I'm on the dog and the over.
The dog and the over to get this rolling. Sorry, Too Drunk Tuber just got me with that. Rather be dead than red. But let's not laugh at these gingers and what they have to. It's real.
Spike is very fun to watch. He's got high pace, energy, and whatnot. But I think this is another guy that might have fell in love with his striking in his UFC debut. He's a primarily grappler, and jiu-jitsu top level, and he got his first win in the UFC by knockout. Now Billy is clearly the better striker here. He's also got great grappling. I think Spike comes out here, guns blazing the first round. Billy gets out of it, and he wins the next two. I think this goes to decision, but I think Billy gets it. Split decision or unanimous. At -130, is that what we can get Billy at right now?
Right now, Billy is at no. I mean, maybe at some books, but we're using the Bet365 right now book with my odds sheet, and it's open to -170 now, down to -150.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll take it at -150. I will never bet a ginger.
Oh man, what
Not saying
what about the alpha ginger? What about the leader of all gingers, Clint? Is this a dog that you find appealing?
Jimmy, I don't know what all the hate for the gingers is. I got to be honest. I married one. They turned my head. I am all on Team Red over here.
We only hate male gingers.
Oh, okay, we only hate males. All right.
We love female gingers.
I do have to check with my wife, because if this is the alpha ginger, I mean, she's got to have the connection there somewhere. They've got to have like monthly meetings that they get together for world domination and soul-taking strategies. So
it's just sobbing sessions. It's just they sob. They sob together.
The fact is that gingers steal souls, and that's all Spike Carlyle does. He is a very special kind of crazy, Jimmy. And a long time ago, somebody very, very smart told me that you don't bet against crazy. I'm on Spike Carlyle. I am rolling with the alpha ginger. I got him at +135, and that line has been smashed. He's down to about +110, +115 right now, I think. And I didn't get in early enough, because I could have got him around +145 or +150. And I think this is a situation where it's either Spike early or Billy late. A lot of people are talking about how Spike Carlyle tends to gas out in his fights. I believe he's probably patched up that hole in his game, but we haven't been able to tell, because his last 3 fights have all ended via first round brutalizing knockouts. So this guy has got skills that we simply haven't seen yet. On top of that, he is his main training partner, or one of the guys that he works with regularly, is Beneil Dariush, who's a very, very respected UFC fighter, high-level grappler himself, a cardio monster. I think he's got the right type of training partners to really ascend in the UFC. I don't want to disrespect Billy whatsoever. This kid is a prospect. He's got some very good skills, some high level, and he's got a good gas tank. That's really the issue here, is that if he starts to snowball on Spike late in the fight, this thing is going to get hairy. But Billy's hittable. Billy is very, very hittable, and as we've seen in Spike's last couple fights, dude is explosive. So I think Spike Carlyle gets it done. I do think he gets it done early. I'm rolling with the alpha ginger.
Oh, Lord.
Well,
you get divorced if you didn't, so.
Dog alert. Dog alert. All right, we have 2 more events left on the main card, but there you have it, the catch weight bout. Billy Quarantillo up against Spike, the Alpha Ginger Carlyle, and a lot of plus lines given out by our MMA analysts. We move on to a heavyweight bout main event card, the lead up to the main event between Tyrone Woodley and Gilbert Burns. We have 5'11" American Blagoy Baga Ivanov, 18-3-0. Opens up at minus 125. Money comes in on the dog. We now have a pick'em. Going up against 6'3" Brazilian Augusto Sakai, 14-1-1. Opens as a slight dog at plus 100, and now sitting at minus 110. Let's go, Clint. Blagoy versus Augusto. You got an angle?
I have to pass, Jimmy. I am emotionally distraught on this fight. I hate Blagoy Ivanov. I can't stand the guy. He's 2-2 in his last 4 fights, Jimmy, and I am 0-2 betting him. I do not like this guy's skill set. And the 2 times I tried to fade him, he showed up. In my opinion, he robbed Big Ben Rothwell, my daddy, back in 2019.
Yes.
He got the win over me there, and I tried to fade him again, and unfortunately I bet on a busted prospect. That one was my bad, but he beat Tai Tuivasa. Blagoy Ivanov is small for heavyweight. He's lumbering. He's not fast. He doesn't have high output. He doesn't have knockout power. He's a punching bag, man, and I can't seem to fade him to save my soul. I want to bet Augusto Sakai so badly here that I'm not sure if it's the handicap or if it's my heart or it's my empty wallet telling me to bet Augusto Sakai. I want to win a bet against Blagoy Ivanov so badly, and I just can't. So my pick here is Augusto Sakai. He's the younger fighter. He's going to be the bigger man. I think he's got crisper striking. I think he's going to get it done. But I have said exactly this before, Jimmy. I will not fade Blagoy Ivanov again.
Whew. Nick.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, when someone beats your dad, you don't want to fade him. You know what I mean? That's not right. You know,
and I went for revenge, and it bit me in the ass.
Yeah, right.
I can't even defend my own dad.
And then, though, he goes on to beat, a somewhat hyped up Tai Tuivasa, unanimously, and then loses a split decision against, Derek the Black Beast Lewis. Is Augusto Sakai on that level?
He's in close fights every time.
And I think he might be. So that's why this is a clear pass. I might be looking for some sort of prop bet here. Now, one thing I have noticed is he's a decision machine, bad boy. But on the opposite spectrum, Sakai, out of his last 5 fights, he's finished 4 of them, I believe. Yeah, 4 of them. So how can you take a prop bet on that? Are they going to go the distance? Or are they not going to go the distance? To me, this is a clear pass, prop bet, straight up, whatever it is. Like Clint said, fireball, beer, popcorn, sit back, watch it, and enjoy it.
What do you think, Al Max? Is there an angle here?
Yeah, I think the angle is whatever fighter is plus money. The coin flip, once again, where this is another coin flip fight, heavyweight division, and I think it's something like 13-5 for like 8.5 units. Sorry, I don't have it right in front of me. 13.5. Yeah, so again, wherever the 13-5, 8.5 units on the underdog in these coin flip fights in heavyweight. And like I said, the thing that I'll say, though, about Ivanov, when he fought Lewis, that was actually pretty impressive. Like, I thought Lewis was going to absolutely destroy him, and he just has this ability to get on top of guys and to stop them from having that super powerful striking that we see in the heavyweight division. He's really good at just nullifying his opponent's power. I find that he's really good at keeping his opponent's arms down. And I too,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think that, I don't know, I think wherever the plus money is, and again, it's not going to be something that I'm going to be betting on very large, but I'm probably going to bet this fight, and my bet will be on whoever is on the plus money in this one.
The only thing that I would think to do, Jimmy, is maybe taking Augusto Sakai by decision. Because Ivanov is so damn durable, I think I would pick my fighter and I would roll the dice by taking them by decision as opposed to inside the distance. On Sakai, you can get plus 200 if you take that angle on it. Turn a coin flip into, a big underdog. I'm not going to do it, but I'm just saying if I had to make a pick, if I had to make a bet, I feel like there's value on that by decision.
Sakai by decision?
Yeah, because Ivanov survived the Black Beast, and even though Sakai, I think, is a better striker than Derek Lewis is, Derek Lewis has more power.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know that Sakai is going to be able to wear down Ivanov unless he got old overnight and get that KO. I think it's going to go to the judges' scorecards, and if I'm going to flip that coin, I'd rather do it with plus 200 in my pocket.
You can get plus 200 and plus 220 by decision on both guys.
Yeah, plus 220 on both guys.
Yeah, you might be able to take another flyer bet here and betting both guys by decision if you feel that way too. Pick up a unit.
I have a hard time doing that just because with heavyweights, somebody can always go to sleep. So I get the angle there. I like the idea trying to lock up free money. But that's when someone decides to throw a flying knee and you lose both sides.
Yeah, just to speak to that, though, it's interesting. The over actually hits more than the under. In the past 18 months, the over is 30-27, and it's 7-7 since the start of 2020, and it's dead even. If you bet the over or if you bet the under, you're dead even either way since the start of 2020, which is interesting because everybody thinks that these are all dead under fights. And we've seen that there's some value on the over, but on this fight the over is favored. So I don't think there's any value in the total. But I do like how you said that both guys by decision, and like you said about durability, Ivanov was stabbed in the stomach. And he is a UFC fighter. He has a giant scar on his chest from being stabbed in the stomach.
Nothing stops that man.
Yeah, I think it will go decision. I think that's a good look.
There you have it. That's the heavyweight bout that leads up into the main event. Blagoy Ivanov up against Augusto Sakai. It is now a pick'em as we speak. Moved to a pick'em as Ivanov was the early favorite. Now we have main event time, UFC Apex. And we have our best MMA analysts joining us as we speak, finding angles, finding betting spots. We have star of the Die Hard MMA podcast, Clint, in the house. We have Boston Nick, a.k.a. Mr. Fat Fist, rolling with us, and Al Mack, whose articles you can see right now on odds.com, breaking down the best angles for this card. Main event time. We're back in Vegas. Life is coming back.
Let's go.
Welterweight bout. 5'9" American Tyron, the chosen one, Woodley. 19-4-1. Opens up at minus 150 at Bet365. Is now minus 175. Money coming in on the chosen one. Going up against 5'10" Brazilian Gilbert Durinho. Burns, 18-3-0. Opens up as a plus 125 dog. Now a plus 150 dog. Here we go. Let's start with Al Mack. I know you have an article on odds.com right now breaking this down. Let's hear your best angle. How do we get paid on Saturday night in Vegas?
Yeah, I'm a Tyron Woodley fan, and but he hasn't stepped in the octagon since March of 2019 when he lost to Kamaru Usman. He was a minus 175 favorite in that fight. He's taken on Gilbert Burns and 5-fight winning streak. He hasn't dropped a fight since July of 2018. He's hoping to make an impact here. If he wins this, he has a victory over a top 5 welterweight. And then this is the bread and butter for me in the welterweight division. The underdog, 42-52, but for plus 18.7 units since January of 2019. If you bet $100 on the underdog in every UFC welterweight bout since last January, you would have profited $20 per fight, whether the fight was a win or a loss. So I got to go with Burns here. I think Woodley he's coming in the decline of his career. Matchup wise, you guys would probably be able to speak to this better than I do. I just think that it's a lot closer than what the odds indicate. I have a conviction that Burns is going to be the right bet to make here. I can't lay minus 170 on an aging fighter who hasn't fought in over a year. But I will say this, if I was going to bet on him, if I was going to bet on Woodley, I would take him inside the distance. because I don't think that he has the ability to go 5 rounds with Burns. So I think that if you wanted to, you could probably take both sides of plus money and have Woodley plus 160 inside the distance, and then just bet Burns straight up. I think that I also really like the over here. Like I said, the over 62 and 32 for plus 13.06 units. And that's another one. If you bet the over every single welterweight fight, you're putting $14 in your pocket, whether you win or you lost. So I really like the over in this one as well. Look, man, Woodley has been through a lot of wars. He's been through a lot of crazy fights that have gone the distance. I thought we saw the decline in him against Kamaru last year, and I think we might see even further decline against Burns. So I think I got to go with Burns here.
Burns early. Let's move over to Clint, and let's let Brandon Williams in our chat right now. What up, Brandon? Thank you for joining us. Lead Clint in with a question. Brandon Williams says, would the smaller cage help or hurt Tyron? He loves to put his back against the cage anyway and throw very little volume. Clint, why don't you start by answering Brandon's question and then lead us into how you're going to get paid?
That's actually a really hard question to answer, Jimmy, because from a strategic standpoint, I'd have to say it would help him because he does like to put his back against the cage. He's built a strategy around having his back against the cage, which most fighters and their coaches will tell you, get your back off the cage. So the fact that Tyrone has become comfortable with being in that position, I'd say it can only help him, but that's if that's his strategy. I don't think that's a very sound strategy. Tyrone has been able to pull off some good wins in his last little bit of a run before he ran into Usman, but I hated that strategy. It always felt like a dice roll to me, especially when you got to like the Stephen Wonderboy Thompson draw, the second fight where he kind of won. We're not even still sure to this day. It's not a good strategy when it comes to the judges. So I think it's going to hurt him more than help.
All right.
I think, honestly, with the cage, that's going to help Woodley. I mean, Burns is not Maya, okay? Burns, when it comes to, the grappling and whatnot. The reason why Maya lost that fight because he was 42 years old and he had become chinny, and he got caught with a big left hook. Before that, I mean, he's fought really nobody. I mean, Shevchenko, come on. I mean, Gunnar Nelson, that was a jiu-jitsu battle. We know who would have won a jiu-jitsu battle. And you got Woodley, who is a supreme striker over Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns got power. Don't get shit twisted. But I don't understand how everybody could just be all over Burns on his 4th fight at welterweight. Yeah, we've had Woodley off a year and a month or something like that. I mean, that could have helped him, if anything. He was pretty active before that. 3 fights in a year and a half, right? I mean, I don't know how everybody's so gung-ho on Gilbert Burns here. I really like Woodley inside the distance, as you mentioned, at plus 140. I do not think this fight goes the distance whatsoever, whether it's one guy or the other. But my lean here, not lean, but my play is Woodley at plus 140. I just don't get how everybody's so gung-ho on Gilbert Burns.
Clint, why is everybody so gung-ho on Gilbert Burns?
I'm glad you asked, Jimmy. Let me tell you why everybody's so gung-ho on Gilbert Burns. My boy Dern has world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's freaking huge. He's bigger than Tyrone Woodley is, and he's coming up to welterweight from lightweight. That's something I've seen everybody talk about. He was a lightweight fighter. How do you expect him to handle the size of Woodley? He's bigger than Woodley. He was damaging himself by cutting down to 155, and he probably should have been at 175 this entire time. But Clint, he got knocked out by a 155er. He got knocked out by Dan freaking the Hangman Hooker, who's a future title contender, in my opinion, who has a phenomenal reach advantage on him and completely outworked him in the striking area. But Clint, Tyrone Woodley is such a better striker. Is he, though? Tyrone Woodley has landed 2.5 significant strikes per minute over the course of his UFC career, absorbing 2.58, which means he has been just ever so slightly outstruck by his opponents in the UFC. He takes a punch to give a punch, and he relies on that one big bomb. Durinho averages 3.13 significant strikes per minute and absorbs 3.02. He has been outworking his opponents on the flip side of this. His wrestling is improving. He's the first person to put down the incredible and insanely durable Demian Maia. His striking has come a very, very long way. And if this thing hits the mat, Tyron Woodley gasses. The man has to monitor his gas tank literally every single fight, which is why he is so low volume in his striking. The last thing I want to mention is leg kicks. Gilbert Burns is going to be the aggressor, but he's not going to run in like Darren Till with his chin up. He's going to come in strategically, and he's going to beat the crack out of Tyron Woodley's lead leg. I think that Gilbert Durinho Burns is very live here, Jimmy. Don't get me wrong. Tyron Woodley is very much a threat. He's got that one-hitter-quitter power, but if he doesn't land that one-hitter-quitter, how does he win? I don't think he can.
All those statistics that you just mostly based were coming from Wonderboy 1 and 2, and then Usman. Okay, if you drop those 3 fights, those statistics go way through the roof. Okay, so I mean, is Gilbert Burns a Wonderboy? Is Gilbert Burns an Usman? Do you really think that Gilbert Burns is going to be able to out wrestle Woodley?
I don't think he's even going to try to, Nick.
Well, then his jiu-jitsu is not going to come into play, so it's going to be a stand-up battle, and I do think that Woodley's going to get the better of him in the stand-up. And I don't know how people – I mean, listen, Burns got power for days. We just saw him knock out Maia. But, again, Maia is 42 years old. We all know, as you say, it's father time sometimes. And I believe it was father time for Demian Maia. And it was time for him to retire. And that's just basically what he did.
Yeah, but, Nick, Tyron Woodley is 38 years old.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
And he's coming off a year-long layoff, too. There's that ring rust.
40, right? So, you know, that being said, I really think the age is not going to matter here. He's been – a year and a month layoff, that helps somebody at his age, in my opinion. So
that's a good point. You'd make a good point there. That's
the first thing that you see, though, when a fighter is technically becoming shot is they struggle to pull the trigger. When he fought Kamaru Usman, he had so many opportunities to throw shots, and all he did was back up and try and scoop takedown defense. Tyron Woodley has had trouble pulling the trigger in his last 3 fights. I just think the boy's faded. I love Tyron Woodley. I championed Tyron Woodley. I made a ton of money on him in his last run of fights, and I bet him way too hard when he fought Kamaru Usman. So I have very, very much been on Tyron Woodley's side, and I expected to be on him when I came into this fight. But the stats, my gut, and everything I've read has put me on Gilbert Burns in this fight. Not to mention that, believe it or not, we're on a 4 underdog win streak for main events in the UFC right now. The last 4 main events, the underdog has been the one winning. And I think this is a changing of the guard fight. I think that Tyron Woodley's motivations are gone. I don't think that he's going to get up for this fight. He had opportunities to have big names like Colby Covington where there's been beef. He wants a guy like Masvidal. He wants to get back at the title. Instead, the UFC gave him the most dangerous guy who's not even in the top 5. I don't think Tyron Woodley is going to come in here and be able to get up for it.
Clint, do you think that 5-round fight is going – he hasn't been 5 rounds ever in the UFC. He hasn't been
against Tyron Woodley, who doesn't push a pace, he can do jumping jacks in the middle of the octagon for half that and be fine.
Listen, he's been 5 rounds in his last 3 fights, excuse me. And that being said, I mean, to trust Gilbert Burns after the 3rd round when Woodley can – that's if he gets past the 3rd round. It's just iffy to me. It really is.
I understand what you're saying, Nick, but in this particular fight, Tyron Woodley's gas tank is just as much of a problem.
Yeah,
so in any other fight against another opponent, if you're talking Gilbert Burns versus Colby Covington, let's worry about that gas tank in rounds 4 and 5. We know Colby Covington is going to ratchet that fight up in the later round. Tyron Woodley, however, slows down. And not only that, but in rounds 2 and 3, he has to make sure his volume is low enough to have gas for the 4th and 5th rounds. There's no way that Gilbert Burns is the first one to gas out here. If anybody's gassing, it's going to be Tyron.
And that's because Wonderboy had to chase him around the ring for a while, and that's why he started gassing that 4th and 5th round. Other than that, when he's fighting somebody that's going to sit there and trade with him right then and there, like Robbie Lawler, back against the cage, knocked him out. I mean, I just think that's similar to the style of what Gilbert Burns brings, minus the jiu-jitsu when it comes to his striking, is Robbie Lawler.
Clint, let me ask you this. Money is coming in on Woodley. He's a very popular fighter. And do you expect more money to come in on Woodley and give you even a better number on Burns?
Actually, I don't think so. There's already been some buyback on Burns. Burns spiked up to about plus 160, and then it got bought all the way back down to like plus 145, I think. People are realizing that Burns is at that critical peak. I think if money continues to come in on Woodley, I think the line's just going to ping pong back and forth around this spot, Jimmy. I think you'll be able to get around plus 160, maybe plus 165. The Sharps aren't going to let it get any higher than that, though. They understand how dangerous Burns is, and there's no way there's just not that much public money. I don't think the public is going to bet Tyron Woodley so hard that he goes any further than he is now. Plus, we know that, Johnny Better doesn't like to lay 2-1, especially on an aging fighter and a champion who isn't really even all that popular. I've got a hard time believing much more money comes in on Tyron Woodley.
I don't like Woodley, but do you think that Burns beat Shevchenko?
Yeah, I bet him there. I'm riding a 3-0 streak on my boy Gilbert Burns. I've been on this death train so far at 170, my friend.
Can I say something really quickly? So something that I noticed. So we can look at this with Gaethje and Ferguson and Teixeira and Smith and Overeem and Harris. All of those fights went a little bit longer than they should have. And I think that this is going to be the same thing. I think that this is going to be one of those fights that will last a little bit longer than it should. As we've seen in the past 3 of these fights in these lockdowns, the referees have been a little bit more hesitant to end the fight as quickly as they normally do. We're going to be in Vegas, so the standards of what entails a stoppage, whether it be a cut or, an injury or something like that.
Changing more.
So I really like over 2.5 rounds here at minus 137. I think that I just think that they're going to want to put on a show, and we've seen it now 3 times that the refs are, not taking anything away from Herskog or anything like that. I'm just saying that, they're going to try to milk it, and I think that we're going to get 12.5 minutes of fighting. I think that we're going to get that in this fight.
There you have the breakdown of the main event. Tyrone, the chosen one, Woodley. A susceptible favorite here up against 5'10" Brazilian Gilbert Durinho. Burns. All right, let's go around the horn quickly here. Main card starts off with a strawweight bout. Dern, Cifers. Then Roberts, Weaver, Quarantillo, Carlyle, Ivanov, Sakai, and then your main event, Woodley, Burns. Al Mac, what is your best bet on this main card?
I got to go with my best bet being Cifers and Dern. I think that she's got I think Cifers has got 7 minutes in her, or 7.5 minutes in her. As much as I think Dern's going to get on top of her and probably win by ground and pound, but I still think that she's going to last 7.5 minutes. Give me Dern, Cifers over 1.5 rounds. I got it at minus 160. You can get it at minus 135 right now, so you're even better position than I am, but that's my best bet.
Dern, Cifers over from Al Mac. Boston Nick, main card, best bet. Let's hear it.
Tough main card. I definitely want to see the weigh-ins, but I think I'm going to go with this over 2.5 that Mac brought up in the main event at minus 145. I actually do like that. I can't see any best bets after that, but I want to see the weigh-ins. But I think I like that minus 145 over 2.5 in the main event.
Over 2.5 main event, minus 145, which brings us to Clint, star of the Die Hard MMA podcast. Main event, main card, best bet.
Jimmy, I am going to give you the death train Gilbert Durinho Burns at plus 155 as my best bet on the main card. This line opened up as a pick'em. Woodley was a minus 130 favorite. The bookmakers understand just how close this fight is. So even if we lose this bet, Jimmy, getting plus 155 or plus 160, that's value, baby. Gilbert Burns.
Gilbert Burns, the dog in the main event from our man, Clint. Speaking of you, Clint, where can we find you for more info and breakdowns and angles? Tell us about your podcast and where we can find you on Twitter.
You can find the Die Hard MMA podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I am at Die Hard MMA Pod over on Twitter. Come hang out. I like to get spicy. We can bust each other's balls. As long as we keep it positive and friendly, I am good to go. Love you guys. Positivity. I hope everyone cashes.
There he is. Our man Clint. Boston Nick, where can we find you on Twitter? What you got coming up?
On Twitter, Mr. Fat Fist. You can reach me there at Boston Nick MMA on Twitter. And obviously, you can reach me at Odds HQ. Please subscribe to Odds HQ and Odds 110 on Twitter. And like Jimmy says, we'll never ask for a dime. Just please subscribe and like.
Yeah. No, you worded that perfectly, my man Nick. Almac, your article on these bouts is front page of odds.com right now. Where can we find you on Twitter?
Yeah, hit me up at Sparkow Mac, and I'm going to have one more article for Burns and Woodley for the best bets, and then we'll have some more stuff for UFC 250, which is next Saturday. So it's going to be great.
Big
card. I love it. We have nothing though without these great cappers in the chat, rolling with us, inspiring us, being hilarious in the chat, just making it so enjoyable. Alex Ramirez, Dutch Boy Fresh, OG Wham, a.k.a. Trot Wham, a.k.a. Wham Bam, Connor McLaughlin, Chris Blanchard, Gregory Wilson, Flipper 13, Marco Ortega in the house, Chris Blanchard, the Sports Keg, JT MMA, Brandon Williams, John Jr., MMA Prediction Guru, Beach Boss. What a great group. Too Drunk to Uber in the house. Too Drunk to Uber. Unofficial Draymond Green was rolling with us. Diesel Eugene was rolling with us tonight, man. Viral Video, Call Me Touch, DJ Hardy. Thank you guys so much for your support. King Ammo, Grids Iron. What a great group. Big Ragu was in the joint. Big Ragu. Well done. Thank you for joining with us. This is what we are going to do. Each and every week, there's a fight card. We will be here breaking down these fights, finding you guys winners and the best angles available. And we should, because this is we're a young company, young crew coming together. And we want to do more and more. And one thing I want to do, and something that the legend Lodos Loshak, taught us is to start, making best bets and tracking them. And I know Al does that and on his articles, and I know that Clint and Nick do that on their Twitter and through the podcast. But we'd like to do that here. So we'd like to start tracking the records of our analysts and being as transparent and honest and exciting as possible. Big shout out to our analysts that joined us. Clint, thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge. Boston Nick, man, love you so much. Thank you for sharing your hard work. And Al Mac Angles, baby. 10%, Al?
5% for now, but it could be 10% by Saturday.
It's funny just because we've been capping for a long time together. I never heard you say it, and all it took was Caitlin Chookagian to fight in MMA for Al Mac to empty the wallet. Love you guys. Please subscribe to this odds.com YouTube page. That's how you can help us. Follow us, odds110 on Twitter. But most importantly, get that cash. Get paid on Saturday night, and it's back in Vegas. I hope that you get to watch it with a few people. Let's stop watching this shit alone in the dark, man.
Hang out. You can do lines off my forehead.
I'm not into that. I'm not going to roll a blunt off that for it. But let's bring it back. Let's bring life back. Let's bring the happiness back.
Hell yeah.
Hope you guys get to watch with people you love and give high fives. You don't need to kiss eyeballs. Just high fives.
I don't kiss eyeballs, but yeah, I hear that.
Rub eyeballs.
From all of us here at odds.com. Thank you guys for watching. But most importantly, get paid. Fatter pockets. That's what we want from you guys. On behalf of Clint, Al, Boston Nick, myself, and everyone at odds.com. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck on Saturday.